momentarily. Do you remember? Oh,
Absolutely.
I was about to ask you if you remember watching Warren Moon growing
absolutely.
up. I most certainly. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks growing up. 9-time Pro Bowler, Hall of Fame quarterback, 5-time Grey Cup champion. Not enough people talk about
Grey
that.
Cup.
Warren Moon joins us now on the Folsom Lake Honda Hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Warren, how are you this afternoon, sir?
I am doing great. How you guys doing?
Doing well.
We're doing well.
Doing well. It's Friday. We're heading into the weekend and feeling pretty good about it. I wanted to start off, since you are a Hall of Fame quarterback, with talking about this quarterback situation in San Francisco, where Brock Purdy is the presumed starter, but he's injured. They spent a lot in terms of draft capital to go and get Trey Lance. And then they go and get Sam Darnold this offseason. How do you feel about the quarterback room that the 49ers got going? Because the rest of that roster is Super Bowl ready right now, Warren.
Yeah, and it's a questionable room, and when you have 3 quarterbacks, sometimes they say you don't have one, right? You're looking for one quarterback, but when you got that many of them, that means you really don't have one that you're sold on. So they all have different situations. Purdy has the injury to his arm that he's trying to come back from, so a lot of uncertainty there. Trey Lance just hasn't showed what they thought he would by this point in his career. So a lot of questions there. And then what Sam Darnold has been able to do in the league as I think number 3 overall pick really hasn't been up to speed as well. But all these guys are capable because that's why they were drafted so high. And Purdy, because even though he wasn't drafted high, we saw what he could do on the field in his 7 or 8 starts last year. So just a lot of questions at quarterback for the 49ers, but at least they do have some answers. They have some guys they feel like can be the guy. It's just a matter of who's going to step up and take that mantle.
What do you think, Warren? Do you think they're a little gun shy after the championship game last year? They ended up with no quarterbacks, basically by about halftime. So does it make sense to keep all 3?
It does right now because you really don't know, like I said, all those different circumstances for each guy. And until Trey Lance steps up and becomes that guy that they thought when they moved up in the draft to get him a couple of years ago, or until Sam Darnold starts playing the way everybody thought that he could, or until Purdy comes back from his injury, they really don't know what they have at quarterback. So it's better to have a number of guys that you can at least look at every day and evaluate, as opposed to putting all your eggs in one basket of a guy who you just has so many other questions.
Talking with Pro Football Hall of Famer Warren Moon here on Sactown Sports. Now, it seems that their approach, Warren, is everything else is so good around the quarterback that they don't need that franchise-type quarterback lining up under center. And one could make the case that they're right, with Christian McCaffrey lining up behind him, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. What would a Warren Moon have done with an arsenal like that in terms of skill position players?
Oh, it'd be scary. It'd really be scary right now. The great thing about the 49ers, especially with Kyle Shanahan's system, like you said, you don't need a really great quarterback to play in that system to be successful. You look at Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's a solid, good quarterback, but he's not one of the top tier guys, top 5 to 7 quarterback in the league, but he's been able to take them to championship games and to the Super Bowl. So that just shows you that there's a lot of talent on this football team. There's an offense that's really hard to stop if the quarterback is just making the right decisions in that. And I think that's what they feel like they have right now on the team with these 3 guys. One of these 3 guys has to be the one to step up and say, I can be the guy to take this team back to the Super Bowl.
All right, so I've got a question a little bit off topic. We were talking about Hard Knocks and the fact that the Jets are going to be on Hard Knocks. Go back to Warren Moon days. Go back to when you were the man. What would you have thought about being on a show like the Hard Knocks? Aaron Rodgers apparently is not happy about it.
No, and I don't blame him, and I wouldn't be happy either, especially as you get older into your career. You don't want to have all these distractions when you go to training camp. You got cameras everywhere you go, and you probably start getting a little gun shy. You think you're in the bathroom, maybe there's a camera there.
Oh no!
So you get a little paranoid with all this exposure. But I think Aaron, because of all the attention that he's already gotten this off season, everything that's happened throughout the OTAs and that from the day he steps into the Jets facility. He just wants to be able to come in and get used to his teammates, get used to the offense, and have a nice, smooth transition. But right now, that's not going to happen with Hard Knocks being there. They do a fantastic job at NFL Films with Hard Knocks, but the Hard Knocks is not for everybody.
And you switched teams a few times in your career, Warren, going from Houston to Minnesota, Seattle, closing it out with Kansas City. What's the number one thing that a quarterback needs to do when they change teams and cities and systems and coaches and everything else that goes with it?
Well, a combination of things. First of all, you're coming into a new city, so you got to get used to just living. Where am I going to go to the bank? Where am I going to go to the cleaners? Where am I going to go to the grocery store? How do I get to all these different places? Your maps on your phone are going to be very valuable to you, just trying to learn your way around in a new city. And then all of a sudden you've got new teammates. Not only teammates that you're going to have to play with on the field, but you're going to have to learn their personalities off the field and which buttons you can push on certain guys, because as a quarterback on the team, you're not only a leader, but you're almost like a psychologist too. You have to know a little bit about everybody on the team and know what makes them tick, because they all are going to want a part of you and a piece of you. So you have to be able to give a little bit of yourself to everybody on the football team. And then the football part of it comes when you get on the field, learning the offense, learning who does what, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. So there's a lot that goes into moving from team to team as a quarterback, because you have so much that you have to deal with.
And what would you say about this time of year, what you remember? What are your memories of this time of year, about to go into camp? Was that an exciting time, a stressful time? What would your memories be?
It's a really exciting time, and you want to take this time right before camp to, have a vacation with your family, spend as much time as you possibly can with them, because once the season starts, it's just going to be full speed focus as far as everything you do every day. You're in a routine, and every day is pretty much the same every week. So you want to try and have as much relaxation time as you can away from the game until you get to training camp. But there's a lot of anticipation, and you also want to be able to enjoy yourself during this time, but also understand you don't want to get yourself out of shape, because you've worked yourself up to a point during OTAs and your mini camp that, okay, now I'm ready for the season. I'm ready to go into training camp. So you don't want to lose any of that over those last 3 weeks that you have that vacation. So you want to make sure you're doing enough with your workouts, but you also want to have some fun and good time with your family, or if you're single, by yourself before you have to go to training camp, because it is definitely a focused time of the year for everybody.
Warren, talking with Warren Moon, the Pro Football Hall of Famer here on Sactown Sports. You have your ties, obviously, to the Seahawks organization and your time there as the quarterback. I think Geno Smith and his surprise sort of pop-up year last year changed the timeline for that organization in terms of hitting the reset button after moving on from Russell Wilson and everything else that was involved in that. Some folks have them competing with the 49ers as a contender in the NFC West this year. Do you think they're there yet?
I really do. Last year they went to the playoffs as a wild card team, and they had a lot of young players on their team. I think they had 5 or 6 rookies that started last year. So those guys are going to be that much better this year, because they have a whole nother year under their belt, as well as they'll have another training camp and off season. Geno Smith is only going to be better within the offense. I think with the weapons that he has, DK Metcalf and all the other receivers that they have, Tyler Lockett, he's been a mainstay around there for a long time. And then the young kid they drafted from Ohio State, they're going to have some weapons to contend with in that conference. And I think their defense will be better this year. They have a new defensive coordinator coming in. Again, like I said, most of those players that were rookies last year were on that defensive side of the ball. So they're going to be better on that side of the football too. So it's going to be a very competitive NFC West division with those two football teams. I think the Rams will take another step back, and so will Arizona. But I think the Rams make that the 49ers and the Seahawks will be the two teams to beat in that division.
One more for you before we let you go. We were talking earlier in the show about the state of the running back position and how running backs are being treated in today's game. And you got 2 premier guys in Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley who are holding out for new contracts, not signing their franchise tender, possibly sitting out regular season games. Warren, in today's game, it just doesn't seem like the running back is valued. How important was it to you lining up as a quarterback to have a premier running back behind you, or at least a guy that you knew you could trust back there?
Yeah, I thought it was very important to have somebody like that. Even though I was the guy that most teams knew was going to throw the football more, you wanted to have somebody that kept the defense honest, that there was still a threat on that with that part of your offense running the football. And I think that's still the case today, even though the game is predominantly a passing game. It's spread out a lot more. The ball is thrown all over the place. But these running backs, especially if you have one that has a dual threat skill set, like a Christian McCaffrey or even the guys that are holding out, Saquon Barkley, he was like, I think, 30% of their offense last year. I think he had something like 16 or 1,700 total yards from scrimmage last year, and the same thing with Jacobs. So these are guys that shouldn't be holding out and having to hold out for more money because of how much value they have to their football team. But for some reason, these NFL teams are not valuing that position only because of longevity. I think maybe you don't give the guys a long-term contract, but you should definitely give them a very good, healthy wage for a couple of years on their contract, if that's what you're worried about, them getting hurt or not having as much longevity as the other positions, because these guys are very valuable to these football teams, especially as if you have that dual threat to you where you can catch the ball out of the backfield and you can run the football with power, but also be able to take it the distance.
I lied. That wasn't my last question because my producer, Jay, he just reminded me in my ear. The other day we were talking about some of our favorite throwback old NFL jerseys, and the Houston Oilers came up. I said that was one of my favorites, and I'd like to see – I know they're not the Oilers, they're the Texans, but I'd like to see them bring that back. That's got to be the coolest jersey and your favorite one that you wore in your playing days, right? Right, Warren?
It really was. It was a really good-looking uniform, That Columbia blue, it was a great uniform coming out of the locker room. It wasn't very intimidating. It wasn't like a uniform or anything like that. But when it came out of that locker room, we looked really good. And actually, that uniform is with the Tennessee Titans now, because that's the Houston Oilers went to Tennessee. And they're going to wear those uniforms this year.
I hadn't heard that. Okay, good.
The league finally approved where a team can use different helmets now, and that was what the owner of the Tennessee Titans was waiting on, that they could have the whole uniform. She didn't want to wear the uniform part with the pants and the jersey and have to wear the Titans helmet. She wanted to have it all. So now you can wear the helmet along with the jersey and the pants. So you're going to see, I think, that uniform this year at some point, maybe against the Houston Texans.
Oh, that'd be great. You just delivered some great news to this guy, Warren Moon. That's the 9-time Pro Bowler, Hall of Fame quarterback, 5-time Grey Cup champion, Warren Moon, our guest for the last few minutes here, and we appreciate the time, sir. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for having me on. You guys have a great weekend, and I'm sure I'll talk to you sometime during the season.
Same to you, and we look forward to it.
Take care.
He joins us on the Folsom Lake Honda Hotline.